It's afternoon in Pavlohrad in eastern Ukraine. Buses are arriving at the transit evacuation center.
Do you climb the stairs yourself or do you need help?
The center is the first relatively calm stop for people living frontline areas, mainly in the Donetsk region. The majority are elderly people with limited mobility. Svetlana came from Kramatorsk. VOA agreed to withhold last names for security reasons.
I hope to come back. They said the war will end in May, but now I'm sick and there's no one to help. All 90 apartments in my building are empty. Everybody's out.
About 10 charitable organizations work in the transit center.
We provide humanitarian, legal, psychological help, assistance with logistics, with resettlement. So this is a comprehensive approach.
Bogdan Zagorulko works for the East SOS Charitable Foundation. He says the group has evacuated 88,000 people since the start of the full-scale invasion.
In Pavlohrad, the transit center has been operating since August 2024. Initially, we worked in Pokrovsk, but after the situation there worsened, we moved to Pavlohrad.
After registering the evacuees, volunteers review documents and whether they have a place to stay before determining what kind of aid is needed.
We give out this backpack with necessities: wet wipes, deodorant, toothpaste, floss, antiseptic. When you leave a combat zone, you don't think about such things.
Meanwhile, psychologists work nearby.
People are very often confused. They can cry, scream, and get angry. So I talk to them, calm them down, satisfy their basic needs, drink water, wash their hands. Sometimes people didn't even have that.
Some stay in the center for a few days, while volunteers find a place for them to stay and look for relatives. Volodymyr and his blind father have been here for 5 days.
I thought Russians would not reach the village, but when they were on the outskirts of the town, we ran to a neighbouring village, then called on the evacuation hotline.
Most evacuees go from the transit center to be with relatives elsewhere in Ukraine. The center says 10 to 15% have nowhere to go, so a state resettlement program steps in to help. An evacuation train runs from Pavlohrad every day.
Our foundation also settles the people with limited mobility who need inpatient care. Unfortunately, the situation in Ukraine is critical now. The funding for geriatric institutions is being greatly reduced.
Zagorulko says last summer sometimes about 100 people went through the center every day. Now the numbers have decreased, but volunteers are ready for a possible new wave. Meanwhile, in the late evening, a new bus comes from Pokrovsk. Lilia and her 3-week-old son arrive. Volunteers say the boy is one of the youngest they have ever seen here. Lesia Bakalets, VOA News, Pavlohrad, Ukraine.